Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogrammed with Carrie Smith. This is a new channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, it's a new channel, so please hit subscribe and you can hit the notification bell to get, well, if they actually do that, you'll get notifications. Also, we have a locals now. We have a Patreon and Subscribe Star if you want to support the show. On locals, we're going to be doing book club next month. We're doing the Anthony Fauci book. So you still have time to read it if you would like to join. And what else? There was something else important. Oh, if you were here last week, Greg Wilson makes these beautiful handmade knives, and he's going to donate one of his knives. Actually, he's going to make a custom knife for you if you are the person who comes up with a good name for this live show. We're just calling it Kerfefe Break for fun in the meantime. But if you come up with the name, just put it in the comments, and on Monday we're going to announce the winner. And we'll ship you one of his beautiful knives once you decide what you want on it. So I'm very excited about today. I have a whole panel of people hanging out with us. So please welcome, you guys probably know all of these people, Adam Coleman. Hello, Adam.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Kris Kdubtru Williams. What do you prefer to be called? I call you Kris, but...
It doesn't matter. I've been called everything, so I could handle Kris or Kdub.
Kdub. And then we have Michelle and Natalie from Force of Light. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hey, good. Glad to be here with you all.
I'm really excited for some of you to meet each other because you hadn't met Kris before, right?
No.
No, I haven't met either one of these gentlemen.
No, me neither.
Oh, nice. I think that you'll have a lot in common. So, so today, I don't know what's on your mind, but I fell into the rabbit hole of this women's swimming event thing, and I can't stop thinking about it. Maybe because of the visual images of Lia Thomas and then the other winners. Cole, could you put up on the screen? It's the link of the pictures. It says the whole story in 2 pictures. I just want to show this because I think this is visually disturbing. Are you guys familiar with what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So Lia Thomas, if you're listening and you're not aware, Lia Thomas just won the women's 500-yard freestyle event for NCAA, the women's swimming competition. She is the women's champion, or should say he. It's a transgender woman. And scroll up to the top there and let's see that article. Okay, Lia Thomas of Penn becomes the first transgender woman NCAA swimming championship winner. And scroll down just a little, Cole.
The first of many.
Yeah.
The first of many.
Yeah.
Right?
The way we're going.
Right.
I want to see, actually, instead of reading this piece about her big win, can you put up the link? It's not in order, but it's the link that says 2 pictures say it all. Or maybe I can put it up. Let's see. I'm going to put it up.
I had a horrible joke, but I'll keep it.
What is it?
Let's hear it.
Gosh. No, it's just you said her big, and I was like, where's Carrie about to go with this?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, that's actually, it's like, there's something about the pictures. That's why I want to share it because, it's not working. Cole, if you can find those photos, there we go. Okay. Click on that first one. Now, this is the winner's podium at the end.
Third place is so heated.
I know. Look at that. There's something
so
about
heated.
the visual here that I don't know how people can look at this and think it's okay because it's like you're lying eyes. You don't want to believe your lying eyes. Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
The one in third, her face is just like,
I love it. She's like, I should be second.
Yeah. And then you see the second place winner there, Emma, who, is kind of doing a cute little pose. But go to the next picture. So then they took more pictures, and the 3 women who won second, third, and fourth place, they all grouped together. If you're just listening to this later and you're not watching, they're all grouped together. And then you've got Lia Thomas, this gigantic man standing off by himself. Like the blocking in this, the behavioral cues here is just fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you can tell this is their way of making a point.
Yeah, the body language says a lot.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that no woman stands like that.
Don't make generalization.
Such a guy stance.
It is. I mean,
I don't
if
know,
you want to compete in women's sports, you got to learn how to stand like a woman, is all I'm saying.
Seriously.
He doesn't now. Correct? Do you guys know the details of Lia Thomas? And correct me if I'm wrong. He hasn't had any surgery. He changes in the women's locker room, fully naked with his male genitalia.
Well,
Wow. All out there, huh?
It's just that's a lot to deal with.
Wow.
well, I mean, I would imagine life is a little bit more difficult putting on a women's swimming outfit with a boner. So
He's got his challenges cut out for him. Yeah. So this just happened, and there has been on Twitter. I was pleasantly surprised to see there was a little bit of, some people, an outrage. The University of Pennsylvania, they're getting ratioed on Twitter right now with people saying you should be ashamed of yourselves. But the real disheartening thing is that what are the women doing? What are the swimmers doing? Do you feel that they're morally culpable in this or ethically culpable because they're still swimming? Like, I like that they stood apart from him, but if they want to put a stop to this, don't they need to get out of the pool?
Oh, that would be a huge, like slap in the face back to the Olympic sports or sports in general. Like we're not even gonna like it would be cool, like, at the start of the race, like everybody just stops and he's the only one swimming. Like,
Right.
wouldn't that be like so awesome to see? And they just kind of like, we're not even gonna race. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel it's like maybe that this is kind of the beginning of their little stance, literally the way they all get together, because this has kind of been the first in the situation. And I mean, college athletes, they're between 18 to 21 to 22 years old. They probably are just trying to figure, what do we do right now?
Yeah, how do we handle this situation? How do we feel about this?
Because as these young girls, if we come out against this, we know we're about to be swarmed and attacked by ESPN and the far left media. So it'll be interesting to see as this continues, will they kind of figure out, hey guys, we need to rally together and just not compete? Because they're probably honestly just trying to figure out what the heck they need to do.
Yeah.
And trying to be politically correct, probably, and young college women.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I understand that idea of like doing like some sort of protest, but at the same time, I would imagine, I'm no athlete, but I would imagine you spend majority of your life working on a sport to just say F it. It's kind of like people know who the real first place winner is.
Yeah.
Yes. So. Well, and that's a very good point. They put them in a terrible situation because these girls have dedicated their lives up until this point to this craft or this athletic competition. And then
they have to pretend.
Then they have to pretend
that she got second place when really she got first place.
Yeah. And
and just act like this is normal.
And again, I don't know what they're being told, like the authorities above them, because they could be told, if you guys don't swim, your scholarship's gone. Like you're now having to pay $50,000 a year for school. So there is probably a lot on the line for these girls.
Yeah. Cole, can you pull up the Virginia Tech link? Where the Virginia Tech, it's a post-millennial link. There is one swimmer who's going on the record about this as opposing it. And as we'll see when this comes up on the screen, they've been told not to say anything. So their coaches, everyone's telling them to stay quiet about it. If you guys are just listening at home, this is a post-millennial article, and the headline is Virginia Tech swimmer goes on record against Lia Thomas competing in women's sports. And can you scroll down just a little? I want to show you, there's a video here that maybe we can get to play. Now, she said that. What?
The pictures.
Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling. The photo, it's totally slanting down in height, in terms of height. I'm going to read a little bit of this, and maybe we can play this video as well. Following the transgender swimmer Lia Thomas's performance in the qualifying round for the NCAA Women's Championship, a Virginia Tech swimmer has become one of the first to publicly speak out against the biological male swimmer. And let's see, that video is coming up right. Biological male swimmer competing against women. It's a common conception that we are all very disappointed and frustrated with someone who has capabilities more than us women have to be able to compete at this level and take opportunities away from other women, the unnamed Virginia Tech swimmer told Savannah Hernandez. See if we can get audio, see if we can play that video call. I just want to hear from her. It's the clip in the article where she is talking to Savannah Hernandez. There you go. Look at all the ads.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't want marijuana.
It's time for an additional feature. It's easy. Please toilet sink.
Oh no, not an ad. Sorry about that. Oh no. Okay. Well, you guys can go. We'll put the link to this in the description for today. You guys can go and watch that. But basically, she says that the coaches are telling them that they're not allowed to speak out.
Think about Lia Thomas competing today
Okay.
as a swimmer in this competition. What are you feeling? What are other athletes feeling?
It's a common conception that we are all very disappointed and frustrated with someone who has capabilities more than us women have to be able to compete at this level and take opportunities away from other women. Like, I have a teammate who did not make finals today because she was just bumped out of finals. And it's heartbreaking to see someone who went through puberty as a male and has the body of a male be able to absolutely blow away the competition, and you go into it with a mindset that you don't have a chance, if that makes sense. Like, it's hard to compete against someone with the aerobic capacity, the muscle development, the body of a man. It's hard to think about it like that. And staying positive, I bet, for other swimmers who are in that heat is probably overwhelming. I'm not sure, I can't speak for them, but it's disappointing to see and frustrating, definitely.
And you said that one of your teammates was crying today because she didn't make the finals. You said that she was 17th,
Yes.
and there were 16 spots.
Yes.
So Lia Thomas took one of those spots. Talk to us about what your teammate was going through and that experience.
She was very emotional, and it's hard to see because it's her last NCAAs, and she really loves that race, and it was just heartbreaking to see that she put all her effort into it today and went the best time that she went in a morning session before and still not make it back. It's hard to see someone who works every day, every night, still not be able to compete against someone like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind is that her friend is the casualty of the culture war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and what comes to my mind, I mean, I played sports through college, and it's like what comes to my mind is these are like athletes. They're competitive and they're demoralized. That's the word. I mean, she didn't use that word, but that's what she's saying. She said, we go in knowing we don't have a chance. And that's like the worst feeling ever.
It's kind of sad to hear, and like her friend's experience.
It's very sad for athletic minded people who it's a competition, and to go in knowing we have no shot to win. I mean,
It's
what's the point?
It's truly not fair.
No, it's not.
What sport did you play?
Basketball.
Oh, did you
And
see
now-
Adam's
now
tweet
looking
about
back,
basketball?
Now looking back, I wish I would have got one of my male friends to come be our point guard, and we could have like really dominated. I mean,
You guys would have been number one all the time.
I mean, through the nation. I mean,
Yes. I'll look something up prior to this show. I graduated high school in 2008, and I did sports as well. I was really passionate about football, and I just did track just because, I mean, hang out with friends. Honestly, I wasn't really serious about it, but my 400 time in 2008 would have placed me 4th in the Women Olympics. And
Wow.
I'm not claiming to be some super athlete either, just some average guy with an average time. But I would have gotten 4th place in 2008 Olympics. And I'm like, somebody should have told me about this a long time ago. Like, I could be cashing in, like hook a brother
You could have
up,
been in the wrong team.
Come on, 4th? I mean, that's not bad,
Have you seen that you guys, that funny meme? It was going around a while ago. It's it's the ACLU now recruiting mediocre men for women's sports. If you post that meme on Facebook, they will take it down and give you a ban, or they did me anyway. I got away with putting it on Twitter, but Facebook was like, nope. Wow. Insulting to trans women.
Unbelievable.
I mean, like,
go ahead.
I was joking around with the Juana Man image, and I've been throwing that around because it's, you know, that was a satirical movie, right? It was meant to be ridiculous, but I'm still waiting for it to happen. Like, swimming is not the most sought after sport or watch sport, right? But basketball. Oh, bro, yeah.
Could you imagine, like, if LeBron James went and just played WNBA? Like, he would probably destroy every record in a single season, like career stats for women destroyed in a season.
You don't even need a LeBron James. All you need,
that's true.
All you need is a Division I, basketball player.
Right.
Anyone, pick one, and he will crush it. He'll crush it in college. And then he'll make it into the WNBA, and he'll kill all the records. Like that's how crazy things are. But it makes me think about the conversation with John McEnroe when I don't know if you remember, he got a bunch of backlash because he was saying that any guy would take out Serena Williams. Any guy who's ranked would take out Serena Williams. And they're like, "How could you say that? Serena's the greatest thing in the world." Serena was like, "Oh yeah, all the guys would destroy me. Like, what are you talking about?"
She's like, "I know it."
The 100th ranked guy would destroy her.
Yeah,
Right.
you would destroy her. Possibly. You guys have fans here. Force of Light. I just want to say, JS Pina in the chat says, "What's up, Force of Light?"
What's up?
Thank you.
Yeah, we love to see you.
I think part of this is people who, let's say young or naive people, and maybe some older people as well, who are being told that there are no biological differences between men and women. I've seen them on social media saying things like, well, I'm a woman and I can run faster than my husband. And I'm like, you're not an elite athlete.
That's because your husband's an armchair quarterback on the couch. That's why but he's overweight, something like that. But go run against the top guy. Not even the top guys. The mid-rank guys, you would lose. And someone brought this up, or she brought it up about that. You're going to a athletic event knowing you're never going to get first. No, you could run your best time by far.
Yeah.
And that would be demoralizing, knowing that the best you can do is second place.
Well, and we just brought up like Serena Williams. Like if you put like men in there, it takes away from the greatness of Serena Williams. I mean, Serena Williams is amazing at what she's done and how long she's been able to do it. And again, I know, Carrie, when you were on our channel, I brought up one of my favorite movies is A League of Their Own. And it's like they could no longer make that movie because we'd have to have men in a league of their own.
Yeah.
At which point it's not a league of their own.
Yeah.
Men and women's sports are cool up until about age 11 or 12, and that's where you start, because girls are pretty much like better at sports or anything prior to like a certain age. And like once that age happens, it's like, please separate them, for the safety of the women, things like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think women's long distance swimming, that's the only thing. Isn't that the only thing that women have a physiological advantage on average in, because it's long distance? And
I don't even think it's the closest thing that I've ever been able to see is like every now and then the fastest woman would probably get like 6th place in like the 100 meter, or like she would be like, it's not as big as a gap like in the 100 meter. Like the further you go, the bigger the gaps are. Like look at like the 100 and then look at like the 400. Like when it comes to track, the gap just gets way larger, So I mean, I will have to look into that, but as far as I know, like everything, you take the top guys in physical sports and the top women, it's it's not like they wouldn't even be able to make the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know, and just about anything.
And the thing about swimming in particular, so I used to work with when I had in my old life, when I managed comedians, my partner managed musicians and also swimmers. So she had been a swimmer in college. She was really in that swimming world, and we started representing some Olympic swimmers. And it comes down to fractions of a second.
Mm-hmm.
That's what determines the first or second place. For the best people in that field, it's literally fractions of a second, but not with Lia Thomas. It's like there's whole second. Anybody that knows swimming is like, there should not be entire seconds elapsing between first place and second place. And then you look at the women who won second, third, and fourth, they're all grouped together. But that first guy, and the video of it, I also encourage people to watch the video. People were pointing out, he doesn't even look like he's trying.
That's
like you
what I
can
was gonna
see.
say.
Yeah.
It's effortlessly. Like he probably is
Yeah.
like, let me make this closer so it doesn't look as bad, you know? I mean, if I'm running a race against like a 10-year-old, I'm not going to try my hardest.
Right,
you know,
right.
versus someone my age and, you know, my ability, that's going to bring out the competitive. So even on a like adrenaline competitiveness, it's not even bringing out the best in you, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Maybe I'm petty, but I would crush that 10-year-old and teach him a lesson. Don't ever challenge me again.
This is what the world is like, kid.
yes, it's hard. It doesn't care about you.
Oh my goodness, you're making me think of something.
That's
Adam, one of the elders in my church, he gave a guest sermon once where he was talking about the self-esteem culture that we have. This whole culture of everybody gets a trophy and building up kids with this unrealistic expectation of what life is like. And he was giving a personal example, and he shared it in the sermon, and it's online. You can find it. So I'm going to share it. He said that when his grandkid was young, he played football with him all the time, and he was really teaching him a lot about football, and his grandson became really good at it. And he said at one point, he said to him, you know, Grandpa, am I the best quarterback you've ever seen? And he was like, no. Not at all.
Right, not even close.
That's and then he named some famous quarterback, I forget who, but he was like, no, that's so and so. And the kid's like, he's like, no, really, let's watch his videos. Look how good he is. You're nothing like that.
That's funny.
He's like, okay, thanks for letting me know.
Welcome to the real world. No, I'm laughing. I'm exaggerating a bit, but no, his point was, don't build up this unrealistic expectation in the kid's head and be like, look, here's why he's very good. Let's watch some of his videos, you know?
Yeah.
We do have our channel just got monetized. So I'm excited that we're even getting super chats. I'll Fight You Naked. Hello, sir. Says, could wife beaters get off if they identify as female? They're not getting off, but they are being put in women's prisons. I've seen this, especially in the UK. Have you guys seen that?
No.
I've heard of stories
California
like that.
too.
California?
Yeah.
They're being put in women's prisons, and in some cases, taxpayer dollars are being used to fund their surgery if they want it. But others are choosing not to. In the UK anyway, they don't even have to have surgery. They can go into the women's jail even if they're a convicted rapist or pedophile.
You can have some guys like that just goes up in there. He's like, wait, I identify as a female, and they'll put him in the.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the UK I think is a little bit ahead of us on this in terms of going down that rabbit hole of you know, your biological sex is just whatever you say it is.
It's fluid.
Yeah. Well, along these same lines, there were two things, because it's Women's History Month, and I just wanted to celebrate women.
What is women? You know?
What is it?
What is a woman? Yes.
So along these same lines, there's another article I sent Cole. This is about Rachel Levine. Can you pull that one up, Cole? So USA Today just had a big thing for Women's History Month, and they have named Rachel Levine as one of its Women of the Year. Let's scroll down. I think there's a photo of him here.
Oh God.
Terrible. What a terrible
There we go.
transition.
Yeah. Happy Women's History Month, ladies.
Ugh.
The #1 swimmers, the Women of the Year.
Men are destroying Women's Month.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter said Women are History Month. What do you guys make of this? And I mean, I want to talk big picture just a little bit, if you don't mind. What do you make of this, and where do you think we're headed as a society? Because, like I said, you would think that the visual, just looking at it with your own eyes, that picture of Lia Thomas, who's so much taller than the female athletes, that would have some kind of impact on, like, this is reality. What are we doing? But the people in charge, the people running these sports, the people at the colleges, the coaches, it's not having that impact. Where do you guys see this headed?
My first thought was, I mean, this might sound kind of extreme, but it's like they hate women almost, you know? It's like, I mean, I know that sounds extreme, but it's just like, why else would you try and, it's like, they don't even get the accolades they deserve. A man gets that. So it's like, it makes me think somebody somewhere hates women, even though they accuse the other side of that all the time, of being sexist and all these things. But really, maybe they hate women. I don't know who they is, but, you know.
I don't think that's extreme at all, but go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think they're just making a mockery of women.
Yes.
But I think in the bigger picture is, you know, people who are transgender didn't just become invented 2 years ago. They've been in our society. You know, they have jobs, they do their own thing. That's the unfortunate part. It's almost like when we talk about BLM and then Black people, because they're two separate entities. These are activist divisions when we talk about these particular topics. People like Levine, whatever his name, they're activists, you know, and they take the accolades of women because they are ultimately selfish people. They have no problem, you know, stomping all over someone else's accomplishments just so they can boast themselves up. You know, it's the same thing with Lia Thomas. You know, I think if you talk to anybody else who isn't on the activist mindset, who has, you know, like Buck Angel, for example, there is no confusion from Buck Angel as far as what they actually are, right? But this is a new mindset that has been implanted in the minds of people who want to become transgender. I even question if some of them really feel this way. You know, I go back to, I don't know if you remember you remember the Dave Chappelle situation, his last special, where the person, was that Tiger?
I'm muting myself.
It's okay. The situation where someone who's transgender who worked at Netflix wanted to do this whole protest thing. And I remember being on Twitter and they were taking pictures of them in panties with half chub. Here's the entire thing to me is when I take that picture and then I rewind a matter of months before, it was a guy. And I think to myself, as a white male, let's say you're straight, as a straight white male, you don't get any real attention, especially, you know, working at Netflix and, you know, some ideological cesspool, but you do get attention from appearing this particular way. And by claiming something that you don't even really need proof of, you just say, this is my truth, this is how I feel. And I really do believe there's a mixing up of people who simply just want attention, who want accolades, who want promotion, and people, I can't remember the term, but men who enjoy wearing women's clothes. I think that's also part of the entire mix.
To me, I think of just like the long history of women and many of things that women have fought for. I mean, it was a time where obviously being a woman was oppressive and not as popular. So to me, it's like it's very interesting that this stuff is arising now as opposed to in the 40s. In the 40s, nobody's want to be a transgender, right? Like just like Rachel Dolezal, she wouldn't have been claiming to be black in like the 1800s. Like it would have been very inconvenient. You know what I mean? So the irony is, yes, you want to be a woman when it's popular, and guess what? You get Uber rights and all this. So maybe I'm being too straightforward, but I mean, I just call it like I see it. It's.
No, you make a good point actually with comedy, but yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, there are benefits now to being perceived as as part of one of these oppressed groups.
Correct.
Yeah, of course, but not to necessarily push back on Kris, but I also ask myself, how oppressive was society really for women, from a long time ago? Because the entire thing that always comes up is, well, women couldn't vote. And that because they couldn't vote, they were all of a sudden oppressed in every other aspect of their life. Like, to me, that doesn't hold too much water, because life is oppressive. Are you worrying about voting if you can't feed yourself, if you're starving, if the crops aren't coming in? I mean, is that the most important thing to highlight for someone? So I personally think that life is oppressive, and we're now in an abundant society. So now we think, because we're in an abundant society, we don't have to worry about those things that throughout human history we had to be concerned about. So now we look at the micros and the micros and the micros. Well, they said this to me. Well, I felt this particular way. Like, that's not how human history has ever been. Let's hope that someone doesn't come into your village and rape you and then take you away. Let's hope that someone doesn't come and steal all your resources and then the rest of the people that die because of it. So, the women were oppressed from a long period ago, where men were getting accolades, women were alongside them to reap the rewards too. So I think that when we talk about these people were oppressed and felt this particular way, listen, there were Black slave owners too. It doesn't mean that any of this is right, but this is the reality. And I don't know. I just kind of, this isn't directed at Kris or anything, but when I hear people talk about the past, I always hear them talk about the past like the people in the past were these like backwards thinking, they walked on their knuckles, but they were people. And we think that we're somehow much better than them because we can have a conversation across the country. We just have tools, right? We didn't invent this. Carrie, me, Kris, ladies, we didn't invent this. We're using it. Right?
I can barely use it.
Exactly.
Same.
So if we were to switch places with someone from the 1920s, give them enough time, they'll figure it out, because they're still human beings.
Right.
So that's my little rant about the past.
You made me think of something when you talked about microaggressions and people kind of making fun of. I don't know if you saw, I can't remember her name, but the tennis player who had a meltdown because someone was mocking her, making fun of Osaka or something of that. And I'm like, well, you wouldn't want to play guy sports, because I mean, have you been to an NBA game courtside? I mean, Reggie Miller back in the day. I'm just thinking of all the crazy names the guys get called, and I mean, I remember the Detroit Pistons and Indiana Pacers brawl. I mean, that was crazy. So I'm just thinking of you don't see a lot of women wanting to go play men's sports. It's always men going, well, because they wouldn't be able to, obviously, right? But it's always men taking women's sports, and to me, it seems counterintuitive to people who actually believe feminism. If you are feminism, I'm like, you should be the biggest person speaking out against this. That's why I really respect J.K. Rowling for the things she said.
J.K. Rowling does not give a crap anymore.
I love it.
She's in that place where, and don't get me wrong, anyone listening, it's not about, well, she's so successful she can say whatever she wants. No, she's sacrificing a lot.
She is.
Even being a person who has power, money, and prestige, she's still sacrificing a lot. I'm gonna mute you for just a second, Kris, because there's an echo, I think, on your end. Just a second. But what she's doing is that she's at that point where she doesn't care anymore, because no matter if you are at her level of influence or not, you reach that place where when you start speaking truth, I think you just don't care. Once you've done it once, the more you do it, you're like, it doesn't matter. They've called me every name. They're going to call me. They call her transphobic all the time. And it starts to be like water off a duck's back. Like, how many times are you going to call me that? It doesn't have the effect that it used to when I was first afraid of it, you know?
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure. I know I never watched Harry Potter, but I know they just did that HBO Max special with the cast and just for, I guess, how many years it's been since Harry Potter. And I'm pretty sure like they let everyone know, like, she was not invited. She was not going to come.
And then didn't like Emma.
Did she
like,
address
I guess
it?
She said something, made like a little comment or something, or that's
yeah. And isn't that kind of, I think that's almost funny. You have Emma Watson, who's like this new, like, modern feminist. And then you have J.K. Rowling, who I think truly is more of an actual feminist, like literally cares about women's issues. And it's just funny that the modern feminists are sitting there attacking a woman for trying to stand up for women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's bizarre. It's
It's
bizarre time.
Like a woman who's went out on her own and became crazy successful.
Yes. Yeah. Wrote one of the most popular or fantasy stories in a long, long time.
Yeah. Some of that is that split that happened between. Yes. So I don't know about you guys, but I was a women's studies minor before it was cool. and so I learned about in feminism, there was this, they call it the first wave, second wave. Yes. The first wave were the suffragettes who were fighting for women's right to vote. And then you had the second wave of feminism, which was in the 60s. And it was more of a cultural revolution around getting women into the workplace and the ideas about what is feminine and what's not. And it's sort of pushing back on the idea that there are, what they thought were the restrictive nature of gender roles. So those second wave feminists are at odds, a lot of them, with the third wave and the fourth wave. Third and fourth wave have become overtaken by these younger generations, overtaken by the trans activists. And that's why they're calling, they hate the second wave. They're calling them, people like J.K. Rowling, TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminist. And so it's this whole splintering that's happening in the feminist movement, which I think is a positive thing. Yeah, I think it's a positive thing.
I just thought about something. I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just thinking about something. Maybe there's going to be a fifth wave, and that's the trans wave, right? The trans feminists. They're going to, oh my God, it's going to be crazy.
I don't have the language to keep up with all this,
Oh, man.
I'm going to put a super chat up. This is from Tara. Hi, Tara. She says, teen girls and women will end up dropping contact sports because it will be physically too dangerous to compete against men. Yes. And also, I think you're right. And also because they're not going to be placing, they're not going to be winning. So the more that this is tolerated by society and by all the institutions, the sporting institutions, the colleges, the media, the more that it's propped up, you're going to see more men entering women's sports. And I guess women's sports are going to die.
Because what is the incentive? I got to be number 2. I worked my whole life.
Well, and
I got to be number 2.
I mean, that's just now. There'll probably be more transgendered men that want to participate in sports.
I told you I'm thinking about trying out. So, I mean,
we have another from Tara. She says, my sons have been capable of physically beating me up since they were 8 and 9. Sex differences are real. Yeah. Sorry, Adam, I cut you off.
Well, maybe we'll hear about coming out of retirement, Teresa Brady entering the.
Wait, who's Teresa Brady?
Tom Brady.
Is he he's a quarterback, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one from my elder's analogy. I think that's the one he said. No, Tom Brady's the best quarterback.
That's funny.
Yeah. I did want to put up one more. Oh, Sue Escobar. Thank you. She says, great show. I recommend looking into the transhumanist agenda. That's the larger picture here. A merging of culture and biology with a goal of depopulation via various mechanisms, neo-eugenics. Thank you, Sue.
That
Yeah, I
sounds
do think
exciting.
that there's something like that afoot. It's funny, as much as they hold up The Handmaid's Tale and try to claim it as their own, they don't seem to realize they're pushing us there in so many ways. It's like,
I
what do you?
know.
Maybe it's because they haven't read the book. I don't know. I did want to put up on the screen, Cole, that there's that one tweet from. Now, I really like this one. This is from Caitlyn Jenner. And yeah, Caitlyn Jenner also won Woman of the Year a few years ago. I forget which magazine put her on the cover. So Caitlyn Jenner, trans woman, biological male, who's also happens to be a conservative and is not one of these activists who's pushing all of this, and is an Olympic athlete. Says so Pink News, which is a gay and lesbian publication, put out an article where they say Caitlyn Jenner incites yet another disgraceful attack on trans athletes. And then Caitlyn responded and said, "No, I just had the balls to stand up for women and girls in sports."
The irony.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I have to call bullshit on Caitlyn Jenner.
Really?
For complete bullshit. For one, you transition and then you take an award away from a woman.
True.
Right? And you're not even an athlete currently. Imagine the gall, right? And then now, all of a sudden, because you're no longer the golden child of the mainstream media, because they realize that you have some conservative values. Mind you, he's from California, right? So I don't know how conservative he actually is, but you have some conservative value, and you said some things that go against the narrative. Now you're the pariah. So now you can say, well, I have the balls to stand up to like, like, no, but you had no problem doing that a few years ago, taking it away from a woman who was actually an athlete. You weren't. And when you were an athlete, you didn't even claim to be a woman. It was a fucking athlete like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Like, imagine that.
Back when Wheaties were popular. I mean, like,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
Exactly. I saw that and I was just like, you're actually part of the problem. You know, like, okay, you're trying. I'm thankful that you're exposing this issue, right? I want to hear you, and I want to thank you where you're right. Right, you're right that, you know, transgender people should not be taken away from, you know, real women. You're right, but you're being a hypocrite. You know, like, you took away someone's, as Adam pointed out, to someone's award.
I feel for poor Caitlyn sometimes because
Natalie's a huge fan of the show. Let's be real.
No,
Wait,
like,
which show?
Keeping Up with
no,
the Kardashians.
okay, I haven't watched that in a long time.
Okay,
by the
admit
way.
you've seen every season.
But I'm just saying, Caitlyn can't win for losing sometimes, because it's like neither community really embraces, you know, like, but I'm saying really, like, it's
Caitlyn's a mixed kid.
I think
Caitlyn's the mixed kid. She's not black, but she's not white as well. So it's like, you're the mulatto. It's hard to really fit into either community, you know?
And like, I think when the Woman of the Year thing happened, it was like she was really hot at that time. And I think it was kind of a Cinderella moment for her, you know? She was like, oh, you know, like, take me to the ball, like, got the dress, everything, having a moment, you know, like, just getting all the attention. And then, yeah, so it's like, I don't know what to think of Caitlyn, but
I think what I was gonna say is, I think when Caitlyn, I believe, voted for Trump, I think was kind of fully rejected by that community, at which point now let's speak out against these things,
and that does happen. Just people kind of go where they're accepted, I guess.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys about your personal? Oh, go ahead, Adam, first.
Well, I hear what you're saying. You go where you're accepted, but this goes back to what I was saying earlier. There is a level of selfishness when it comes to.
I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah. So like, when it to me, like you said, it's hypocrisy. You know, for you to, you know, people were putting the spotlight on you, and you say, "Look at me, I'm beautiful, I'm a queen," and then you go and take all the accolades, not only just the Woman of the Year, but showing up on covers where other women would have been on for magazines to get the attention that they may have wanted. So, I mean, she took up, or he, whatever, took up a lot of airtime and took up a lot of opportunities from actual women. And now when they don't want to mess with you anymore, and you have enough FU money to just say whatever you want anyways, now you're saying these things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, that's why I say I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Do you guys, is it just because you think Caitlyn's not sincere, or is it because Caitlyn's trans? Okay.
I don't think, I don't even care. See, that's like with people who follow me, most of the time I talk about people's hypocrisy, because it's almost human nature to be inconsistent, but when your inconsistencies are so glaringly obvious, when I watch people use the COVID, for example, when I watch people just before the election say, I wouldn't trust the vaccine, are now the same people who say, you better get it or you're an idiot. I see the hypocrisy in this, so it's that kind of thing. Same thing with Caitlyn Jenner. At one moment, not give a damn about any other woman and any opportunities that you're taking. But then all of a sudden you're like, I got the balls to stand up for them. Where were you? How many years ago? You guys like my impression, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I maybe this is something we'll disagree on. I don't know what you guys think about this. So I'm going to ask you a question about, since this has become culturally relevant, and it is. I was arguing with a friend who I very much respect, but who doesn't seem to understand. And also, this friend was in Germany, so maybe it's a little different there. But they don't seem to understand that this is no longer a private matter. They were, he was saying, oh, if they decide to identify as a woman, or that's their private decision. It's like, no, it's far beyond that. It used to be a private decision, and if they could blend in, nobody really cared. That, it's like if I saw Blair White going in the ladies' room, I'm not going to do a double take. It's like, she looks like a woman. So it wasn't that, and it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. But now with the activists pushing this idea that biological sex is no longer real, that it's socially constructed, and you can just choose to identify however you want. Now it's a public matter, because now publicly we are having to reckon with this. We're watching men win in women's sports. We're watching men, win Woman of the Year. And we're also watching, at least in the US, there's no ban on what they call gender affirmative care on children. That's a public matter. There are kids who are getting puberty blockers, Lupron being one of them, which is a drug for prostate cancer in men. It's not FDA approved for kids, but they're using it on kids to block puberty. They're getting, in some cases, cross-sex hormones. And in Texas, until recently, when the governor put out a notice saying he's going to treat this as child abuse, until recently, there were clinics performing mastectomies on kids as young as 12. Wow. So that's a public matter. And so it's a long buildup to say, now that it's a public matter, now that we're being forced, everyone to reckon with this, what are your thoughts about trans people versus what I would call like trans activists? And do you see a distinction? Personally, I'm asking this because personally, I don't mind using a person's preferred pronouns if I think they're coming from a good place and they're not demanding it of me, and they're not being dishonest, and they're not pretending that biological sex isn't real. Someone like Blair White, for example, doesn't claim to be a biological woman. Blair's like, I'm trans woman. I prefer living as a woman. Fine. And she looks like a woman to me. So I'm going to say she. But Lia Thomas is a liar and a fraud. And my mind says, no, I will not comply with your demand. I'm going to call you he. So do you guys have a... Yeah, that's a man. Baby. So that's a long buildup. But I have friends who go both ways. I have some friends who say, I'm not going to use the preferred pronouns no matter what, because I think it's all a lie. And I have others who use them no matter what. What are your opinions on that?
I'll say that if I know them, I'm not going to be rude. And if that makes them more comfortable, then sure. But in general, I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm just not going to be, personally rude to someone. But see, that's kind of the other thing. I don't want to veer off too much, but like they're so rare. And you know, while we're having this long discussion about it, which has validity because of the events that have happened, these particular people are so rare in our society that it almost feels like, should we even talk about it as much as we do? So I have something actually to bring up, but I'll, you know, when you're ready.
He makes a good point. I mean, I forget the percentage of transgender people, but I mean, it's like less than 1%, isn't it? I mean, it's like, it's tiny.
Well, now so what's happened now that it's become so culturally dominant, this idea, now it's no longer, it used to be less than 1%. And new studies are saying that young people, it's as high as 20% are now identifying. And that's insane. That's not real.
No. They push it very hard though, and I just wonder why. I mean, beyond just, you know, basics, but I'm just saying, just in a practical sense, why do you push it so much?
I mean, I would honestly, yeah, that is a wormhole, totally. I mean, I think at the end of the day, these are the same people who claim the world's going to end in 9 years because of how many people are on the earth and because of cow farts. So, I mean, so I think some of it really is population control. I think that's why they love homosexuality, and I think it's why they support transgender. I mean, I think it's that basic, honestly, with some of these people.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like at some point I can't live in your fantasy world. You know, if you want to be identified as a wolf, should I embrace your wolfness until, you know? It's so at some point, like, okay, if you want to be called Sarah now, okay, whatever, I'll call you Sarah. You know, names aren't really, you know, you can have a guy named Andy, girl named Andy, whatever. Okay, I'll call you by your preferred name, but I personally don't want to divulge into your fantasy land, and you know it. Like I said, it's not based in reality, and so that's a large problem of this as well. It's not reality based, you know.
Well, and that what he's saying kind of comes back as you guys were saying before. I mean, transgender people are not new; like they've been around. It's just
there's nothing new under the sun.
No, but they weren't demanding of things. Like now, this movement, they demand things. They demand that all those girls playing in sports just sit there and shut up and just take it and let this man dominate their sport.
And if you watch almost any movement, what's interesting with time, it starts out as acceptance, and then it's everywhere, and then it's no, bow down and kiss the boot. You know, like you have to love it. You have to be an activist for it. Like it's so many different things you'll notice. It starts out subtle, and it just, you know.
Well, and I mean, you have that one situation was in North Carolina in the locker room with the boy that was, I mean, exposing himself. And I think there was like a sexual harassment claim between
Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we just don't know what damage can be done. And I saw someone, I posted on my Instagram, she was British, but she was talking about transgenderism and just how it is so, how like even when a man comes into a woman's bathroom, like you're invading our personal space, and like women may not feel comfortable to say anything, but they don't feel comfortable. Like that's just the bottom line. And it really is kind of a safety issue. And I'm not saying all transgender people are going to do anything, but sickos can claim to be that. And it's just problematic. I mean, it is.
And as far as addressing someone, I will say, I mean, I know this is such a answer, but I always want to be kind to everyone. You know, I really do. First and foremost, I want to be loving and kind. And kind of like I think was said, like if someone feels more comfortable, like, you know, like I would do that for them, but I also get the points made. You also don't want to indulge someone
and their fantasy
into something that, you know, maybe a road they don't need to go down if that's the case.
Well, and I would probably, if I was addressing someone who is transgender, I'd probably just call them by the name they told me. I probably just
like most of the time you can,
I mean, I probably would just avoid, honestly, with pronouns and just call them by whatever name they told me their name is.
Mm-hmm. Adam, what were you going to say?
One of the things I want people to also recognize is that there's an industry that's developed from the whole transgender situation. You know, my wife, she's not a plastic surgeon, but she works in plastic surgery. And we have these conversations every so often. And she was telling me about how there's one particular surgeon where all they do is top surgery. That's all they do. And they're booked for well over a year, right? And the reason they do it is because there's so much money in it. There's such demand for it now. And I think there's going to be a huge reckoning in about a decade, whether it be from suicides, reconstruction to try and get breasts back, lawsuits, you name it. But I think there's going to be a huge reckoning for this particular industry, the plastic surgery industry, and amongst other actors who, giving out puberty blockers and stuff like that, from like Planned Parenthood and the like. But I think people don't realize that there is an entire industry that has developed from this, and they're making a lot of money. And once there's an industry that's created, it's hard to get rid of it, because there's no incentive to get rid of it. So I think people should keep that in mind. I
think you're onto something, Adam, just about, this issue, because I've seen multiple stories of people who regret it transitioning. And I mean, once you transition, you can't go back. It's not a reverse pill, and so I think we're going to see more things like that. You talked about suicides. That definitely happens. Depression, because once this becomes your identity and you're like, wow, this wasn't as life-changing as I thought it would be. I mean, man, that would cause serious identity crisis and people's lives want to end. And so I unfortunately, I think we will see that. Obviously, I don't hope for that, but I mean, it's the nature of reality. Once you divulge into things like that, there's consequences for things like this is ultimately what I'm getting at. And so I think, Adam, you're right.
Well, and I just want to say, this is kind of random, but it's like, I truly am a person, like, live and let live, like, but that they're not doing that. Like that's the problem.
That's what I was saying earlier.
That's what we're addressing at this point. You're no longer just living and let living if you are coming into these biological female spaces like sports, and you're taking that away from women. But like, you have now forced yourself into like our freedoms and our liberty and our spaces, and that's just wrong.
I agree.
Yeah. There's a, maybe I can put this link in the chat, but there's a detrans group on Reddit. I don't know if you guys have ever spent time there, but it is very large. It's up to, I think, 21,000 people now. And it's a space for people who have transitioned and then decided it was a mistake and are now trying to detransition. And if you look through all these stories, there's thousands of, it's mostly women who trans into being male. Many of them did so starting when they were kids, went on Lupron, went on the puberty blockers. Now, some of them are dealing with these permanent, some of them had mastectomies, and now they're dealing with these permanent effects and trying to go back and live as a woman. In some cases, they have problems with cysts on their uterus. They have, obviously, some of them had surgery to remove their breasts, and other side effects of taking testosterone for so many years. One of the ones I read recently was a woman who's like, my hair is still falling out. I have lethargy. I have, I'm infertile, like all of these issues. And I think what you're saying, Adam, is true. And Kris, everyone, is that there's going to be that reckoning. You said 10 years, Adam. Yeah, maybe even sooner. But I think you're right. Sometime within the next decade, you're going to have a lot of these women. Some of them are already suing. There's one in the UK who's suing. They're going to start suing their parents. They're going to start suing the doctors who did this, because as a doctor, your first oath is to do no harm, and to say that a kid is capable of making that decision with these permanent effects on their body. There is going to be a mass awakening, a mass era of lawsuits, I think, that might do something to change the public mind. But
yeah, I think it's always going to take a threat to money to change people's behavior for many of things. That's the one benefit about our country, is that you can sue people. I mean, it can be abused, but you can also sue people and get them to change their behavior. And if enough lawsuits start popping up, then people start looking at, reading the tea leaves and start changing their behavior. So, not just the, the plastic surgeons, but even the therapists who are just reaffirming what the kids are saying, right? They're no longer told they can challenge. I mean, they're being told that they can't challenge the kids. So they're just reaffirming what the kids are saying. And yes, I guess you are a boy now or a girl now. So just continue down that path and I'll be here to support you. They're even going as far as threatening people's ability to be with their children because of it. So I think, maybe 10 years, maybe less, but I think it's going to come down to litigation and for a lot of it.
I was just talking with this marriage and family therapist yesterday, Jake Whiskerchin. He's amazing, by the way. If you guys aren't following him on Twitter, you should follow him. It's Jake Whisk, and he's just so grounded, and he's so and you know what it's like. I know you all know what it's like when you meet someone these days that like they know what's up. You're like, yay, another one, and I'm like, but he was telling me that in the therapy field, they are now being told that they have to push what it's called affirmative care. And that's not just for kids who come in with gender dysphoria, that's for everything, which it basically means, he said, if a person comes in and they tell you, I have depression, and you as a therapist say, I don't think you do. I think you have borderline personality disorder. They say, no, I don't want borderline personality disorder. I want depression. And you have to treat them for depression. Isn't that insane? It's like,
that really is insane.
It's interesting, Carrie, you bring that up, because as we were talking, I was thinking about like the psychology field and therapists, because they are literally either being forced to deny what they know to be true, or just to go along with a fantasy with someone and literally enable them into something that can be very harmful.
Kind of like how it was just changed in the medical or the DSV or whatever, like a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a mental illness. That's what it was listed as. But yeah, so it's just, did everybody change their mind? Which I'm not saying that, I'm not getting into that, but
no, but ideology is having an impact. It's infiltrating the medical field and the mental health field. And so people are now going to therapists. It's almost, I think we're going to see some medical malpractice suits in this area as well, because you're going there presumably because you know something's wrong with your mental health. You want to get help. And instead of having a therapist who's been told to seriously and honestly evaluate you and help you in the best way possible, the therapist is being told, well, just see what they think it is and then validate that. Yeah.
Well, and think about the absurdity of that. Like, the professional has been trained. They've gone through years of schooling to identify what the issue is, just to have the patient come in and tell them what they believe it is and have to go with that. So like, what's the point of school?
And their job's probably not going to be very effective.
No, because you've just got to go with their delusion or whatever they claim.
Kris, I'm so sorry. I had you on mute a second ago because there's an echo. You're off of mute. It's just, I'm so sorry. You were trying to
self-diagnosis.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. So, hey guys, look at all the people in the chat. I'm going to put up this Pirate Tomsky one. Hello, Pirate. He says, I'll never understand someone who wants to chop off their wedding tackle to win a gold medal. But you don't have to. Lia Thomas didn't.
Yeah.
Lia Thomas still has the wedding tackle, which
I mean, but a part of me was like, if you're gonna go that route, go the full route. Don't be playing games. You know what I mean? Like, cut it all off. Do the surgery. Like,
go big or go home.
Go big or go home.
Show your commitment, right? Lissa K. Canada passed federal law that prohibits counselors from anything but affirmation of gender transition. Wow.
Gosh.
I wasn't aware of that, but that sounds...
Canada's like gone.
What happened to Canada?
Canada's just so much further along than us. I think part of it is they don't have, in their culture, they don't have that same respect for freedom of speech that we do. Not that our respect for that isn't being eroded, but it's not even codified in their law, you know? So it's a little...
I was just thinking... The Canadian dating scene must be really confusing.
Well, here's something else. Now, this is just an anecdote, but I've seen this. My friend Mike Harlow, who some of you know, he was showing me what it's like to be on dating apps now as a gay man. They don't put, like, you can say I'm only interested in men, but you can't filter for trans. And so he's getting like all these women in there that he's like, no, why are you showing me this? Like, that's not even who I'm looking for. It's making it very complicated to date, I imagine.
Man, you know, so glad I'm not in the dating scene anymore. You know, just to be married, it's a safety from all this craziness.
It's wild out there.
It's wild.
Woo.
By the way, you guys both, I've seen you do posts about your wives and stuff, and I think you add a lot of joy to the internet when you do that, because so much of Twitter is like doom scrolling and, you know, just the things that we're looking at and going, what is this? Why? This is crazy. And so I love seeing your posts. And Adam, you had a post the other day where you were talking about, it's a total pet peeve of mine as well. You were talking about the way people slag off marriage.
Yeah, you know, the wait till they change, and you know, the whole ball and chain, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I never liked it because it kind of just, it makes it very one-sided if there's a problem. And, you know, and it comes from married people who just feel like it's cheaper to keep her, or and it comes from divorced people who are just, you know, very slighted because, you know, divorce can be very troublesome. But I personally don't like it. I feel like it's like bad juju that they're trying to put on you, or just basically projection of their bad experience onto you.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. And actually, other people were bringing this up too, and I also hate this too. And I've had this happen when it comes to kids, because they're always like, wait till they hit the teenage years. And I'm like, my son's 16. My son's fine, very respectful. They're like, oh, they're all defiant. I was like, maybe you're a kid. Like, but my son isn't like that. Like, my son, other adults are like, wow, your son's very pleasant. I'm like, yeah, because we raised him to be that way. Like, it's your responsibility. That's why I'm hard on parents, because I feel like a lot of parents don't want the responsibility of taking the good and the bad when it comes to their kids. But ultimately, it's your job, right? And if your kid is all messed up, I'm sorry, but it's kind of your fault, right? It's harsh to say. If your kid shoots up a school, I'm sorry, but it's kind of your fault too. Like, you didn't pull the trigger, but you helped to raise the kid who pulled the trigger. Like, it's a harsh thing to say, and people don't want to accept it. But if my kid did that, I'd be devastated, because I'd be like, I could have done something better. I could have done better to make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think ultimately, I think people just like to transfer their bad energy, especially when they don't take accountability for a situation onto other people.
They do that on both things. You're right. People do tend to do that. Yeah, very true.
It's Lissa agrees with you. She says, I hate when people denigrate or mock their spouse. It's gross. It is gross. I hate it when people do it to their spouse. I hate it when they do it to their friends, to other friends. It's disgusting. If I ever hear a friend slagging off another friend, it's like, wow, well, I know what I can expect from you about me, you know, like, it's just, there's something really, I think it's that what I said to you on Twitter, Adam, which is misery loves company. If they've had a bad experience, they really want to think that it's universal and that everybody has a bad experience. How could you be happy in your marriage? How could you be happy with where your kids are at, you know?
Yeah. My wife has totally upgraded me. You know, wholly as a person, as a man. One of the funny things my wife says is like, she kind of jokes about this, but she's like, you know, if I were to die, I'd never want you to get married, because I put all that hard work into you, and someone else is going to benefit from it. You know, like, I get it. You know.
But did you like say, okay, I'll remain single?
I told her, you know, she'll never know. She'll never know. You know.
Okay, so I'm going to switch topics here for a second, unless you guys have something else that's on your mind. I've got one more thing.
Okay.
Anything? Okay.
I kind of wanted to talk about, not necessarily about Ukraine, but about Zelinski.
Oh, well, that leads into what I'm going to do next anyway. So let's do it.
Okay,
What do you,
there you go.
I don't have a lot of thoughts about it. So I would, what did you want to say about it? Because I'm still in that stage where I'm just trying to absorb what everyone else is saying. So I feel like I don't know enough about foreign policy or Russia or Ukraine or anything. I know I don't trust the media.
Right.
And I know, like, our brother, he pastored a church that a Ukrainian church rented out from him. And he was telling him just how messy, I mean, this was a couple of years ago, just how long back the tension goes, how detailed it is, how messy it is. So I can just assume how our media is making this, just jumping in without knowing any of the real information and just making it a total disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. When I say Zelinski, it's kind of like how it's like my MO. I people watch, right? So to me, I don't even really need to know too much about Zelinski, but I watch people's patterns and behaviors. And that's why I said, yesterday's homosexuals are today's Zelinski files, right? And someone got pissed off at me because I said that, but it's kind of true. The worshiping politicians, I don't care who it is or which side you're on, is detrimental, and it's likely to backfire on you. Like, you don't want to do that. And so I'm really skeptical about a guy from a country that most people can't pin on a map all of a sudden become the Ukrainian hero in a matter of days, not weeks, months, days. And that is a narrative, and we're supposed to swallow it up. And as every day went by, every hero story from Ukraine gets debunked. And everything that is happening around us is making me feel like, is someone trying to make this guy seem way bigger than he actually is?
Yeah.
And there's a continuous narrative. That's why I laugh when people are like, Russia propaganda. And I'm like, do you think America doesn't have propaganda? Do you think Ukraine doesn't have propaganda? Like, of course, this is wartime. Everybody has their propaganda line of defense, right? So this idea that if I criticize Zelinski, that means I'm pro-Putin, or that you're no longer able to even just talk about in a seemingly negative manner about a particular world leader, then you must be for the opposition. I think it's utterly stupid. I can criticize Joe Biden, doesn't mean I hate America. I can criticize Zelinski, doesn't mean I hate Ukrainians. Like, it's this narrative that's being pushed over and over and over. And I can't help but to feel that they want to hold Zelinski, the Ukrainian savior, and he's falling behind, and he's coming to America to beg for more money. Give us military, no-fly zone. He wants all this shit from us and use America as his Amex black card. And so we're just going to give it to him, right? Because he's our Ukrainian hero. And if he fails at Ukraine, guess what? We're going to get more involved, because that is a slippery slope that we always get into. We give arms. When it fails, we get more involved. We put boots on the ground, and so on and so on. So I think this whole thing about Zelinski is damn near some really good narrative-driven propaganda that's happening here. We don't know this guy. Like, literally a month ago, no one knew what his name was. Who's the president of Ukraine? Who the fuck would know? Why would it care? Now all of a sudden he's a hero. Like, that's the part where I'm like, it's like we said, everybody was an expert of COVID, and then all of a sudden became foreign policy experts, right? It's that same kind of like just switching all of a sudden. So I don't know. It's not even necessarily the guy himself, because I really don't care. It doesn't matter. But for me, it's about this narrative that we're being driven every single day, that this guy is somehow a hero who's on the front line shooting everybody. Meanwhile, he's going to appear on NBC, and he came to Washington, D.C. to beg for money and beg for more arms and to have a no-fly zone. So I don't know, which one is it? Is he on the front line shooting people with a Kalashnikov? Or is he flying to America to beg for shit from us so that we can get more involved? Which one is it? So,
It's
but never mind.
it's the
conclude.
deification. That's what they'll call you. It's the deification. That's what. It's not even really him. It's just the way he's being deified in the media. And you're right. They've been putting out. There are all these hoaxes that the media is pushing, just like they did with the Iraq war when they talked about the babies in the incubators dying, being killed, which wasn't true. They're putting out all these stories, and then I can't even keep up with them because then they're having to retract it and say, well, that's not actually true. That didn't actually happen. This was these what would you call them? They're meant to get us on board with war and to be pro Zelinski, and that alone makes me skeptical. It's like, why are you engaging in a psyop on me?
Yeah,
I don't.
Anytime the media pushes something at this point, honestly, I'm like, oh, probably want to go to the others.
Well, and I mean,
well, no, I'm just kidding, but not that.
And I don't know if this is it or not, but I mean, honestly, day one of Joe Biden's presidency, when he did a executive order to shut down the Keystone Pipeline and something else, it's like, I knew we were going to go, some war was going to happen because you have to get oil from somewhere. And since we've decided to stop American jobs and making our own oil, well, we're going to have to get involved somewhere else. We're going to have to figure somewhere to go get involved so we can get some oil and things like that. So I just kind of saw that coming, and he kind of brought it up. So I'll piggyback off what you said, because I could sound really insensitive in what I'm about to say. But it's like him begging for money. So we are almost at 8% inflation. Gas is like at $5.
Yeah.
And that is a tax.
A loaf of bread is $12. No, I'm kidding.
That is a tax.
But it might be soon.
You know, the group that wants to claim they're all for the little guy. Well, we're getting slammed right now. And I guess we're going to print out another $13 billion for this war that we have nothing to do with during this time. I mean, it's
why?
It's one of those I have to almost just check out of because it makes me so angry and feel so helpless. Like, I mean, inflation's just going to keep going up, and like,
scary.
Our lives are going to be hell. But I mean, Joe Biden did his thing, so I mean,
back better.
Yeah, we're building back better in poverty.
You know the thing.
The crazy part is this is year one, so I mean, year three.
Imagine
we
what we can do.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's actually the whether it's a concerted effort or not. It's like we're heading for an economic crash.
Yeah,
and whether that's what they're trying to do or not, I have no idea anymore. But where inflation, which is stealing money from our pockets because the dollar is worth less every time they print more, and between that and their attacks on private property ownership, I mean, they basically were, what did they do this past year? They did, the CDC said that landlords, which mostly impacts small mom and pop landlords, they couldn't evict people if they weren't paying rent. So that's drying up private property ownership from among like the middle class, not BlackRock, which is the one that's buying up all the property. Those places are fine. They can afford to take the risk, BlackRock. But the mom and pop, the people who have maybe one or two properties, they rent out one, those people are being squeezed. Now they're saying they're going to do this as part of the infrastructure bill. They're going to start charging us per mile to a tax to drive our own private vehicle somewhere. I've talked about this with people who don't believe that there's a coordinated push to really sack it to private property owners. But they say, I'm like, but even if you don't believe it's coordinated, can't you see that's what's happening? Even if that's not what they're intending?
I mean, it truly is that communist idea, like you will own nothing and you will be happy. Like that's kind of like where we're going. Like, and I think it is. I think they absolutely know what they're doing. I think they've just came up with these ideologies that sound fancy to people, and they accept them. Like, oh yeah, this is a good idea. I mean, to me, it's baffling that there are literally people who, I mean, I want to think that I'm smart enough as a person that had I voted for Joe Biden because I didn't like Trump, say, if that was the case, that I would at least be able to recognize I made an awful decision. Like this is horrible.
I do wonder sometimes, like are you like, oh, I'm glad, I'm sure I'm confident about that decision I made.
No, I don't think. Well, it's like with the gender thing we were talking about at the beginning. People can look at that photo, but ideological possession is so strong. I think it's like reality can be slapping you in the face with higher gas prices, squeezing out the middle class, squeezing out property owners, and they can still say, "But this is the good guy." Isn't that amazing?
The manipulation, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and I
crazy.
wanted to bring up one thing. I was watching a clip from Tucker Carlson where Maria Salazar was on there. Did anybody watch that clip by any chance?
I
No.
didn't.
So basically, the Gray Zone was interviewing her, and she was basically saying, "We need to give Zelinski whatever he wants." Right. This is after he had. Sorry, that's my dog.
That's okay.
This is after he had come to Congress to beg for money and military items and everything. So Tucker wanted to talk about it, and so he had Maria on. And the conversation, to me, it astounded me from a sense that this man flew all the way to our country, got the opportunity to immediately speak to Congress, beg for military arms and money, and they came out of it saying, "Give him whatever he wants." The urgency to escalate war, it's so efficient. The federal government can't do anything efficient, but it's so efficient about escalating war and giving money and military arms and getting more and more involved about a conflict that does not directly have to do with us. And I find that so amazing because there's never been, what else can you think of that someone just showed up and said, "Give us this," and they say, "Yes, whatever you want." And that was the idea. And that's what they're going to do. So I think that is absolutely amazing that, when it comes to war and escalating war, that we have no problem just open up the checkbook, go into debt, print more money, you name it, to support this guy and give him more money towards a particular situation like this, rather than saying there's stipulations to it, or are you doing enough to de-escalate? What's going on with the negotiations? I mean, from my understanding, Putin doesn't want him to join NATO, and that's one of the stipulations for them withdrawing. Why do they need to join NATO, right? At some point, if not joining NATO would be that one major step to preventing you from going to continue this war, then why is that something that we're not allowed to discuss? Why are we just supposed to say, well, he's a madman and how dare he tell them what to do? But this is when negotiations are. You have your demands. This is what he wants. He's in your land, and the Russians, from what I can tell, are winning, right? So I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna stop talking.
You're fine. I'm so sorry. It's my show. I joked that this might happen ahead of time, but I have a small dog emergency. So can I leave you guys just for 1 second?
Yeah, you can.
And I
Okay.
have to go
You're good.
myself to.
Oh no!
Daughter.
It's the Adam show. Adam and Michelle. Okay, I'll be
Yeah,
right back.
It's just us, Adam.
If you want me to stay a
Alright.
minute, I can.
It's whatever you want.
We can hang a minute.
Yeah.
What's up,
Yeah.
Adam?
No,
How you doing?
I think you make
Hey,
excellent points.
you do.
on that.
You really do.
I mean, absolutely. Oh, we
Where are you
frozen.
guys from, by the
now,
way?
now I've frozen on you. Oh my gosh! 1 second, Adam. I'm
Uh-oh.
going to fix our camera. We're from
Uh-oh.
Tennessee.
Yeah,
You're in
where are
Tennessee.
you? Or where are you
I'm
from?
in New Jersey.
Oh, okay, cool. Do we,
Is
sa-
it-
do
are
we
you
sound
the-
really? I was gonna say,
I'm
do we
sorry?
sound really Southern to you?
Yes, but it's okay.
Good.
We try not to sound really Southern.
No, be yourself.
Hi guys. Sorry about that. This is Ruby.
That's okay.
She's a troublemaker.
Oh, this is one of your babysitting dogs.
Yes, I've got people that watch this show know I'm not going to hide it. I have a lot of dogs here today. This is causing problems. Anyway, Thank you. Thank you guys for holding it down while I was gone.
We
I
talked
think
about our accents.
that's good. I think Kris had to drop off.
Do you
Did
know
he?
what I
Yeah, he
asked
did.
him that? I actually forgot
yeah.
we were. You know, and it's like, and I didn't have to share that. I could have just gone right on, but it was like, you know, I don't know why mentally it was like I thought we were just talking, like in my head, like there weren't people watching. But
Oh,
it's
but
all
that's the
good.
best. That's the best when you forget there's an audience and you're just having a conversation. Because
That actually
sometimes,
is very true.
yeah, sometimes it's hard to, like, before you start, you know, and everybody's just really being themselves and chill, and you're not worried that you don't have that nervousness or whatever. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I struggle to do that. So the few times, if I can do that, it's like, oh, that was a good live stream, or that was a good, you know, being on somebody. Totally. It makes all the difference.
Yeah. So I've got one more thing I wanted to talk about. If you guys have time, I know you might have to leave, Natalie, but
you can.
I just wanted to play this. I've got it queued up. Let's see. Share. Yesterday was St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my green. And can you guys see this video?
Let's see. It's not starting good for me.
Okay.
I don't think she's pushed play yet.
No, I'm literally
Oh.
because it's who it is.
Oh, yeah.
And most of us, we're always, whether we're in Ireland or here, whatever it is, Bono has been a very Irish part of our lives.
This is a poem that Bono
He
wrote.
said this. He said, "Oh, St. Patrick, he drove out the snakes with his prayers, but that's not all it takes. For the smoke symbolizes an evil that arises and hides in your heart as it breaks. And the evil risen from friends, from the darkness that lives in some men, but in sorrow and fear, that's when saints can appear. To drive out those old snakes once again. And they struggle for us to be free from the psycho in this human family. Ireland's sorrow and pain is now the Ukraine, and St. Patrick's name is now Zelinski."
Amazing. Listen to all of that applause. Isn't that crazy?
So she really said that? That wasn't like added in at the end? Or did somebody add that in to be funny?
Okay, are you
Or like-
getting that Bono wrote that?
Yeah.
And she read it. And yeah,
Okay.
you kind of felt like it was rhyming, and then the end there just not at
Like
all.
the way she read that was like if you've ever seen like Meet the Parents, you know, with Ben Stiller when he's trying to pray at the dinner table and he's like, "Lord, guide me more nearly," you know, and he's just like so unsmooth, like he doesn't know. It's like that's how she reads that.
She's it's so awkward. It's so
It's
cringe.
very
The
awkward.
poem is bad. The poem's not even good, Bono.
No.
And then she's dressed like, I mean, look at this dinner of the elites, like the Titanic is sinking, and these guys it's like Hunger Games, like over their expensive dinners. Let me read you this poem from Bono about how Zelinski is God.
She's like, "Isn't it cool?"
It's so out of touch. It's so out of touch. I don't know. I had to share that since it was St. Patty's Day, and that was one of the more absurd things that came across my desk. But there's one other thing. This maybe we can go out on this. This is a little known. Oh, at least I didn't know this until the past 2 years. Did you know that Bono dresses up like Satan? He has his character he does.
No.
I did
No?
not know this about him. No.
Okay.
I know that that Apple forced that album on me, and I wasn't very happy about it.
So here's one more. Let me just pause this for a second and get it up. This is just really disturbing. So he's been doing this character for a long time, but now with the advent of holograms or what have you know, new technology, now he's doing it with a hologram projected on his face. And this is him at a recent show in the past 2 years.
Oh.
I'm back. Mephisto is back. Although in so many ways I have always been with you. Though my job has rarely been easier, people spying on themselves with their own telephone. And look at you, manky people. You've never been so interconnected, yet you've never been so divided, my little disunited kingdom, have you?
Oh my gosh.
Dang, I would have to like slow that down and really like break down what he's saying and listening, but that is creepy.
Well, and it's like
That's
he's
disturbing.
He's just like being honest though about what's going on. Like I think
the parts I could hear.
I think actually what he says is truthful. It's just he's saying
like you've never been more divided.
He's saying what usually is kept like under wraps publicly.
Yeah. He creeps me out.
With well, I mean, why would you want to do that?
It really creeps me out. I don't know. I think, Adam, did you know he does this character?
No.
Yeah.
And I would have never guessed, to be honest.
I think what he's trying to do, what he would say he's doing, is it's a character in which he is calling out the evil in the world through this character, the devil. Like he's having the devil voice all these evil things that are happening. But when I watch that, that's not what I get from it. I get from it that he really enjoys this. I mean, it just on a gut level, I don't feel good.
Exactly. You're right. You're like, something feels off about this. Totally.
I mean, on a gut level, it just feels like you're listening to Satan talk about like how he really feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he loves doing that.
He might be a mouthpiece or something, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm sure he is. No, I was just thinking, it's kind of like how creative types, especially when they're really good at something, they all of a sudden think they're good at a lot of things, and they're really not.
Yeah, like a delusion. Yeah.
He might be a really good singer, but he's not a spoken word artist or whatever the hell he's trying to do. It's just kind of weird. Maybe there's a whole backstory that if I was a huge U2 fan, I'd be like, that's the funniest, or that's the great what's happening. But I don't
think so. There are people in the chat agreeing. Look, I just was curious if people have the same gut reaction. Tweet Girl says, I met Bono. He's short and wears those fancy sunglasses recreationally. Yeah. Okay. I'm highlighting this one because that's the other thing he does that creeps me out. He wears those rose-colored glasses. Yeah. They're like rose-colored tinted glasses. He's looking at the world through red all the time. What is that about? Like, again, I know I'm judging based purely on gut level stuff.
Wants to live the saying, like, to view life through rosy-colored glasses. Isn't that like a saying?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
so he wants to literally do that.
I thought that meant like you were being delusional.
I think that's happening as well. I think both. He might be a little delusional.
Yeah, he's just. I used to like U2, as a lot of people in the chat are saying, when I was younger in college, but the more I learn about him, the more I think he's a mouthpiece for bad beliefs, bad ideology. It was, he was outed with his charity with only like 1% of his charity is actually going to charity. And the rest is going to him and to private planes and stuff. Like everything I hear about him lately just makes me more grossed out, I guess. And so this poem, just like, of course he wrote this poem that it's not even middle school level. And then at the end, it's like, Zelinski.
It was pretty bad. Her delivery was the mixture of the two, I guess.
Yeah.
Wasn't he trying to like save Africa or something like that? Was that his charity?
Yes, he had a charity. Let me see. I didn't prepare this ahead of time, but I'm going to look it up right quick. He had a charity.
Something with Africa.
And said he bought planes.
Yeah, so a lot of nonprofits, you know, they call it the nonprofit industrial complex for a reason, because so much of it is just about making money for the people who work at the nonprofit. And his was no exception. But it was actually, yeah, I was right. It was 1%. Guys, look at this. Here, let's put this on the screen. So his foundation is called the One Foundation. Can you guys see that?
Let's see. It looks like it's loading. There it is.
Okay. Bono's One Foundation. It's appropriately named because he only gives 1% of the funds to charity.
He's honored.
Bono's Anti-Poverty Foundation, One, is under pressure to expand its finances after it was revealed that only a small percentage of money it raises reaches the needy. The nonprofit organization set up by the U2 frontman received almost 9.6 million pounds. Hey, it's pounds. I know that means that's more in dollars. In donations in 2008, but handed only 118,000 pounds to good causes, which is 1.2%. These figures were published by the New York Post. Over 5.1 million pounds went towards paying the salaries of people.
Yeah, well, don't forget that 0.2%. I mean, I think that matters.
Bono, you have been exposed today, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, I thought of that. Like, he's got this whole record now, I think, of being publicly creepy, of being kind of a con man who's raising money for the poor, but only giving out 1% of it. And yet he still gets lauded by people like Nancy Pelosi. Like, Bono wrote us this poem, and we all know how great Bono is. Let's read from
So they're in bed together somehow.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean, what I was saying when
I don't mean literally. I don't want to paint a picture there.
No one wants to think about that. Moving on. When she was when you were saying that, I mean, yeah, that's what I thought. It's like they are the same type of person. Like they present themselves.
You have a common interest, or whatever
they present themselves as being for the people, for the little person. Where I'm going to help Africa. And all they do is line their own pockets. I mean, whether it's Nancy Pelosi or Bono, or I mean, a lot of them. I mean, so it's just they're
a lot of politicians.
Sadly, most I would say. But I mean, they're one of the same, basically.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I was gonna say I don't really trust many people who refer to themselves in one name. So
Madonna
surprised me. I don't trust her. Don't trust her.
I trust her.
What about Elvis?
I think it's
Elvis Presley sometimes.
He thought about that one. I like it.
Well, well, actually, it's not like he says, "My name is Elvis." And that's it.
He's Elvis Presley.
People you just know you can call him Elvis, and you know.
He was.
But if he said he was that famous, but if you said it is no longer Presley, just Elvis, or like Kanye just wants to be known as Ye, I'm kind of like, I don't know. So that's just my thought.
You guys, I'm sorry if you're in the chat and I'm slow on putting up the super chats. I've got one here for you. Let's see. I thought Pelosi's God was George Floyd. When did she change religions? Thank you, Josh. Oh my God.
Whenever it was convenient to do so. Whenever it needed to be changed.
And then I've got one more. J.S. Pena. How do you say that? Pena?
Pena.
Pena. Kara, are you still in unsafe space, or are you just going to be here from now on? I'm just going to be here from now on. And this is a new channel. So if you are just tuning in for the first time and you enjoy all of my tech problems, just please hit subscribe. I would appreciate it. I think I got them all. Pirate Tomsky's helping me out. If there's any I missed, Pirate, just put them on the screen. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging out today.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I think Natalie enjoyed this more than she does her own show. So
I think I'm in the wrong lane, honestly.
If you guys want to just, go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I make like a dirty-ish joke? Because what happened with George Floyd? I was gonna say, there are quite a few white women who have the black phase.
Silenced.
She just had hers a little later,
Oh man,
better late than never. They always say.
She took off the kufi, took off the scarf.
Remember when she was wearing the kente cloth?
Yes.
Yeah, she took it all off. She stopped taking a knee, and now she salutes to Zelinski.
When she took that knee, oh my goodness.
Oh gosh. Yeah, she just went through the phase. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So why don't you guys tell everybody where they can find you? I did put up, and Kris had to leave early. I'm so appreciative that he could be here, but I put up everybody's handles down below if you want to follow these guys on Twitter, but just tell people where you're at, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find, I run basically Force of Light Entertainment on Twitter is me. It's basically my personal account, or is my personal account. And then you also can find me at Michelle34Smith on Instagram, and our YouTube channel, Force of Light Entertainment on YouTube.
Yeah, so check out Force of Light Entertainment. And let's see.
You're on Twitter. She doesn't do much there.
I don't do much on Twitter. I'm Natalie R. Grace on Twitter, and Nat Loves Bella07 on Instagram. It was great to be here.
Yeah, always.
For myself, Wrongspeak Publishing. You can go to wrongspeak.net, read articles either from myself or other people. If you want to contribute an article, feel free to contact me. I'm all over Twitter these days, so at wrong_speak. Instagram, the same. Facebook, I'm sort of on, but you can look me up, Adam B. Coleman. And the book behind me, that's my book, Black Victim, Black Victor. You can purchase on Wrongspeak's website or from Amazon in barnesandnoble.com, but not a lot of people go on there anyway, so I'll say Amazon. And that's basically it.
And you're doing you're writing a lot for Newsweek lately, aren't you?
Yeah, quite a few articles I've put on Newsweek and then the New York Post I was able to have published. But now I'm focusing on the second book. So.
Oh, awesome. Can you tell us what it's going to be about or no?
Sure. There's a deeper premise, but ultimately it's about saviorism. So, this book is about the victim mentality. This book will be about savior mentality.
Oh, that's good. That's a nice follow-up. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being in the chat, hanging out with us today. This is a new channel, so hit like and subscribe, do all the things. And I just appreciate you guys spending Friday with us. Have a good weekend.
Yes.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye.